Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Corliss,
Here.
Halliburton,
Here.
Morales,
Here.
Nash,
Here.
Stead,
Here.
Willetts.
Here.
All present.
First up, Eric. Hello, welcome. We've got interim budget changes. Council has the memo, but Eric's here to answer any questions if you've got them.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, members of council. We have 9 interim budget changes for your consideration this afternoon. The first 2 are related to fiscal year 24, with the remaining 7 impacting fiscal year 25. First, we have a $70,000 budget neutral appropriation increase to cover higher than budgeted upfit costs for the Boise Police Department's new station on State Street at the intersection of Whitewater Boulevard. The increase would be supported through a reduction to the police department's major equipment budget, which had savings in fiscal year 24. Next, we have maintenance and operations cost overages in 3 funds. The overruns in the Boise Municipal Healthcare Trust Fund, Fleet Services Fund, and Municipal Irrigation Fund will largely be offset by higher than budgeted revenue collections. Moving into fiscal year 25, the first item increases the personnel budget in the Arts and History Department by $50,000 for 2 years to account for a grant awarded through the National Trust for Historic Preservation's African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund. This grant was awarded to fund 1.0 limited duration FTE for a community outreach position at the Irma Heyman House. The next item is a revenue neutral grant appropriation of $70,000 for the purchase of a chipper. The city previously accepted $100,000 as part of the Bureau of Land Management's Fuel Management and Community Fire Assistance Program grant, and in August, the city received an increase of $70,000. The third 2025 item is a revenue neutral grant appropriation of $131,000 for the purchase of a water tender. The fire department received grant funds from the Ada City County Emergency Management Association, and the purchase of this water tender will allow the fire department to better respond to flammable liquid emergencies. The next item is a $250,000 budget neutral appropriation increase to acquire open space property on Welford Avenue and Eustic Road in West Boise for the installation of a park. This purchase would be supported through open space funds and would further the city's goal of providing park access within a 10-minute walk from each home, providing such access to over 1,900 residents. The next item would reduce funding for the C.W. Moore Park Improvement Project, as this funding was advanced to fiscal year 2024 via an IBC earlier in the summer. Our sixth fiscal year 25 item would provide funding to extend the non-congregate shelter contract from March 31st, 2025 to September 30th of 2025. This cost would be supported in part from American Rescue Plan Act funds and $263,000 of PDS's general fund budget savings that are available for reallocation. The final item is a $4 million revenue neutral appropriation to pursue increased vehicle charging opportunities in the city of Boise. The increased expenditure would largely be offset by a $3.2 million grant that was awarded by the U.S. Federal Highway Administration. The $800,000 grant match was already included in the fiscal year 25 adopted budget. The grant would cover their planning, design, and installation of between 80 to 100 public chargers across the city. And the project is expected to be completed in fiscal year 26. With that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions the council might have.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of the interim budget changes presented by staff.
Second. We have a motion, a second.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
Just a comment here. I just want to say congratulations to the staff that worked on a $3.2 million FHA grant. That's nothing to shake a stick at. And pretty exciting that we're going to get this infrastructure here in Boise that we were able to leverage a little bit of matching funds. But just such a cool opportunity to partner with some of the federal funds that are out there to really get some much needed infrastructure in Boise. So I think it's big for our city. I want to say congratulations to the team who worked on that one.
Madam Mayor, I was just going to add similarly, it's just amazing to have all of these budget changes that are almost all grant directed, which is pretty cool, and huge kudos to the staff for all their work in bringing in all this funding to the city for these new projects.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate all your work and all the staff that's here. There's a lot of good things in this interim budget change. As my fellow colleagues have said, I'm going to be voting against this because I wanted the non-congregate shelter to be wrapped up sooner than later. And we had a really good policy conversation about that a few months ago. But I just wanted to give you the heads up that that's why I'm voting no.
Oh, great. All right. Thank you. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Nash,
Yes.
Stead,
Yes.
Willetts,
No.
Corliss,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Morales.
Yes.
5 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries.
Thanks, Eric. I guess you're just staying right up there. For the next piece, we've got an update on the 2025 property tax rebate program. And Eric, I hope you'll point out your team too that's helped you on various different things related to this, because this has really been an effort of both CE and the finance department and so many others, and really excited to have you here to talk about this.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Yes, the presentation, I'm going to go do a little bit talking about the financial implications, and then our public engagement manager, Lindsay Mosier, is going to provide an update and walk through the outreach plan. We were fortunate to have Lisa Owens here with us today. I'll be presenting the financial implications associated with this plan, but Lisa is really the financial mastermind behind much of the work that we do here. I will note that the discussion we're going to have is an overview over the program. At this evening's session, City Council will consider the first reading of the ordinance associated with this rebate. House Bill 550 was approved by the Idaho legislature a couple of years ago, allowing municipalities to provide property tax rebates. As part of House Bill 550, the city councils of each municipality was empowered to issue property tax rebates from its general fund to property taxpayers within its jurisdiction. As part of the ordinance requirements, several elements were included, including the total amount appropriated for the program, instructions and a deadline for property taxpayers to apply for the rebate, the formula for determining the tax rebate amounts, and the method of distributing rebates, and any other matters necessary to administer the program. You'll recall that as part of the fiscal year 25 adopted budget, the City Council appropriated $925,000 to offer this program again on a one-time basis to benefiting taxpayers, approved for the tax year 24 property tax rebate program, sometimes referred to as a circuit breaker program, as well as licensed in-home child care providers. I'll note that the participants eligible as part of the circuit breaker program had their applications due March 31st of 2024. To be enrolled within the circuit breaker program, there's a secondary enrollment program to be eligible for the rebate. The property tax reduction applicants must meet the following criteria to be eligible. Again, first and foremost, to be on the property tax reduction program or the circuit breaker. The requirements of that are to be an Idaho resident, to own and occupy a home or a mobile home that doesn't exceed the legal limit. Currently, that legal limit is the greater of $400,000 or 200% of the median assessed value for the county. You must have total income for the calendar year of 2023 of $37,000 or less. And they must be one of the following: 65 years of age or older, a former prisoner of war or hostage, blind, a widow or a widower, or disabled. Also, licensed in-home child care providers must provide, must own their home and must be actively providing child care. Home ownership is evidenced by the homeowner's exemption being on their tax bill as part of the annual assessment process. Some stats related to this program. You might recall seeing this slide as part of the budget approval process for fiscal year 2025. Fiscal year 23 was the first year that this program was available. Eligibility in that program was community members on the property tax reduction program. There were 1,718 applications that were mailed out. We had 1,518 participants, an 88% participation rate. Just south of $1 million was distributed to community members with an average payment of $654. The most recent year, fiscal year 24, again, the program was offered to community members on the circuit breaker program. 1,505 applications were sent out, nearly 1,400 participants, so an improved participation rate of 93%. Total payments of approximately $486,000 with an average payment of $355. I'll note the difference from fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 24 in terms of number of participants as well as average payment is attributable to statewide relief and a lower amount eligible for rebate. For fiscal year 25, again, the program would be available to community members on the circuit breaker program, as well as licensed in-home childcare providers. The number of participants and our participation rate remains to be seen. We hope that we can improve on that 93%, which was a number we were very proud of last year. And we have a budget of $925,000. Three changes to the program for fiscal year 25. The first one, as discussed, the inclusion of licensed in-home childcare providers who own their residence as evidence on their property tax bill. The two other minor adjustments are that checks will only be sent to the property address on record. And the third being that rebates may not be available to estates or trusts after the passing of the property owner. I'd be happy to stand for questions on any financials before Lindsay Mosier speaks to the outreach plan.
Madam Mayor. Yeah, Eric, could you go back a couple slides? I just want to ensure that I understand the state requirements that we are under. So the own and occupy that does not exceed the legal limit of the greater of 400,000 or 200,000. What does that look like in the city of Boise? Because I don't know how many homes are under $400,000. I want to make sure that I understand that bullet.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Council Member, I don't have the exact number, but for the city of Boise, it would be the 200,000 of median
Okay.
assessed value.
Okay,
So most homes would be eligible there.
got it. Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of council, I'm Lindsay Mosier, Public Engagement Senior Manager, and I am going to speak about the outreach and communications plan that we have for the property tax rebate program. First is our core messages. A lot of these have not changed from previous years. The city is providing eligible Boise homeowners property tax relief. This year, we've expanded that to licensed in-home childcare providers. We'll continue to use the senior center as our kind of main point of contact for the circuit breaker program. And then we are estimating about 60 in-home childcare providers through this program. And Lisa Owens will be kind of the main point of contact working with our childcare providers on that. The applications will be open They'll be receiving the letters on December 4th, and they'll be open at the beginning of the year and open through March 31st, 2025. This is our third year that we've done this, and we've continued to see a higher participation rate every year. So we're going to continue the strategy that we've used in the past. First thing is that in December, we'll be sending out a letter that will be a letter with information about the program as well as an application. We try to make it as simple as possible for residents to fill out. Really, they just have to fill out their social security number and a signature and then mail it back to us. There'll also be 2 postcards that will be hitting for folks who have not turned in their application yet, one in January and then one again in February. And then using canvassing once again as kind of our last tool in the toolbox in mid-March. That will also be some phone calls that we'll make to our childcare providers as well. We also we'll announce the program tomorrow through a press release to make sure our media partners are aware and getting out the word, as well as our City of Boise website and internal talking points will be prepared as well. Just a little bit more in depth on the timeline. Today is kind of the kickoff with tomorrow as well as the press release. December is when everybody will be receiving the letters. For the in-home childcare, we know that a lot of folks don't speak English as their first language for some of those. So we'll be making sure that their preferred language that's on their in-home childcare will be in their letter as well. And then making sure if they need any assistance in interpretation or translation that we can provide that as well. January and February, again, a couple of postcards and then canvassing in March. Again, application will close March 31st. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Madam Mayor, Lindsay, thank you so much. Will you be canvassing the childcare centers or just giving them a call?
We'll probably be giving them a call. We'll kind of depend on how it goes from there, but we're going to start with one-on-one phone calls first.
Perfect. Thank you.
Madam Mayor. Lindsay or Eric, I know that I believe we were the only city that did this in 2023 and 2024. Have we been approached by any other cities that have asked us how we've done it? Yeah, that's the question.
Madam Mayor, Council Member, yes, there have been questions that we've received from other municipalities. To be candid, the administration of this program is it's a lot, and for the city of Boise, we do have the resources to administer a program like this. We have advocated for certain changes, and we'll continue to advocate for changes that would reduce the administrative burden of this program. But as far as we know at this point, we are still the only city that is participating in this.
Yeah, Eric, I appreciate that clarity and I appreciate the advocacy for decreasing that administrative burden. It is an amazing program. I get to knock on all sorts of doors throughout the year for a lot of different things. And this is by far the best because you can tell that it's people who truly need it. And so I understand that the city of Boise has resources that a lot of other cities don't. But I would encourage the other cities to continue to look into it and continue to work together in advocating to make that process simpler, because I know we're not the only city that needs it. I appreciate all the work that all of our team does on this one. It really is fun to be a part of, and I know it makes a difference for our community members. So thank you.
All right, thank you both. And our last item tonight is the Assured Water Supply update by Steve Hubble and team.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. It's nice to be here this evening to provide a brief update on the city's assured water supply requirements and program. We'll start with some background that should be familiar with the council, but the Assured Water Supply is a program and set of regulations that connect land use and development with water supply to ensure that growth is balanced with an available supply. And these requirements came out of a lot of the initial outreach around the modern zoning ordinance, where we heard interest in growth in the community, but ensuring that that was balanced with the availability of natural resources, particularly water, and then that potential development was sustainable as well. In and of itself, assured water supply is really a risk management tool for the city, for our residents, our businesses, our water utilities, and the development community that are engaging in these projects. And then water administration in Idaho is complex with lots of involvement at the state level. And this program is designed to supplement and align with existing state requirements related to water rights and water supply. Just some quick facts. The modern zoning ordinance was approved in 2023, but this section had a delayed effective date to allow for preparation with the complexity of the new requirements that are part of this. So this portion went live on July 1st. And again, as mentioned before, we're better connecting this assured water supply requirement with our existing land use and development review process and available water supply. For the development community, the nature of compliance is really driven by the type of water source that the project is using. So if a project is connecting to a water utility, that is a streamlined process. If a project chooses to use its own private or on-site water source, which in Boise is the exception, not the norm, that would be a more thorough process. And then for anyone in the audience today seeking additional information, we've got a lot of technical guidance and applications and information to become more familiar with the requirements out on our website. The Assured Water Supply Ordinance requires drinking water utilities, which are referred to in this context as designated water providers. So those are entities that provide water to us as residents or to our businesses within Boise, and they are required to prepare an assured water supply analysis for their service areas. There are two utilities providing water service, Veolia and Capital Water. I'm excited to share today that both utilities have submitted the required assured water supply analyses, and they're being reviewed currently. I'll start with Veolia. They are the larger water utility, which likely many of us take service from or are familiar with. Their service area covers the majority of the city and then adjacent areas in Ada County and other communities as well. Their assured water supply application was submitted on May 29th. After a brief completeness review, it was determined to be initially complete in June. And so technical review began. Following some technical review, we made an additional data request in August, and then that was replied to by Veolia in September. So we are continuing on with the technical review for their application currently. And then zooming in on the map that you saw on the previous slide, the shape in the middle of the screen there that kind of looks like a Lego block, that is the Capital Water service territory. So a much smaller service area, generally at the south Fairview, at the north Eustic, at the east Winstead Park, and at the west Maple Grove. So it's a smaller area of the bench. Their application was submitted on July 2nd, and we started initial review on July, and we're currently working through data requests with Capital Water to be able to complete our detailed review. For developer compliance, as I mentioned earlier, there's two paths forward for that. A development that uses a water utility will rely on the assured water supply analysis that's been prepared by the utility that's providing them service. During the planning process, the development will submit a brief application providing water usage information related to the project, which will be cross-referenced with the information provided by water utilities. Staff will review for alignment. The second and much less likely scenario is for a development that chooses to provide its own private water supply through the use of a community well, on-site wells, or a private water system. This type of development would be required to develop a more detailed assured water supply analysis, similar to what is required for the larger water utilities. Staff's been working with development applications that have been submitted after July 1st to address assured water supply compliance. And to date, all proposed projects utilize a water utility for service. Our next steps in the near term are to continue review of those designated water provider assured water supply submittals, and then to continue our outreach and education on the assured water supply requirements with the development community. That's all I have prepared this afternoon, but I'd be glad to answer any questions that council has.
Thank you so much for this presentation. I appreciate that the city is looking into the assured water supply as part of our growth within the city because it's becoming such an issue across nationally, really, and across the western states. One of the questions I have is how often, Steve, will they be updating that assured water supply plan? And then second question is there a specific formula that either developers or the designated water provider is using to say how much water per family or household that they're anticipating using? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Corliss, thank you for the question. The first question, let me take the second question first about the average water usage. Yes, that is the type of information that's being collected through the approval and analysis process, is looking at how much water utilities use on an average day, how much they use on a peak day in the summertime, and then what the per capita usage is. So what's being used by the individual person or household. And then if you wouldn't mind just briefly repeating the first question to make sure I capture that correctly.
Yeah, so as these two water providers submit their reports, how often will they be updating that for us?
Thank you for repeating that. Currently, the ordinance requires a refresh of their analysis every 10 years at a maximum, or if the community experiences an extreme or exceptional level of drought, which is a federal government term based on, predominance of drought over a period of time in a given year. If we experience 3 consecutive years of that condition, the report would have to be updated sooner. So short answer, a maximum of 10 years, but particularly more frequently if there were an exceptional drought.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I've got a question, and if I'm asking this the wrong way or thinking about this the wrong way, please let me know. Since we've put this in, and it hasn't been in place for very long, since July, has it caught or picked up or noticed anything that we wouldn't have noticed if it was not in place yet? Like, is it serving its purpose as a risk management tool, knowing that sometimes risk management is like, you don't have a problem and that's the ideal situation, but has it caught anything that we wouldn't have picked up otherwise?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton, I think it's preliminary to speak to that because we're still truly fully analyzing the information that we've received for both water utilities. But just in and of itself, on the availability of all this data that we're being provided in one clean submittal, in one format that we now have access to and can review and can analyze and can assess risk, it's very helpful in and of itself for that reason. And I think as we continue through our analysis, we'll begin to be able to provide some additional insight to that question.
Great, that's super helpful. And I do really appreciate the way that you put that early on, is that like, this is really a tool that helps us with risk management, preventing any sort of mistakes or catching any mistakes before it becomes a major issue. So thanks for the report today.
All right, thanks so much. And with that, if we don't have an executive session, we will recess until 6 o'clock. Thanks, everybody.